Hey, what's up? My name's Kay. I am a freelance videographer and photographer, and this is Project Freelance, the show where I give you tips and tricks for growing your business as a freelancer, and I also interview people that are in different creative industries to talk about how they built their businesses, the mistakes they made along the way to help you not make those mistakes. Welcome to the show. This is Project Freelance. So this week I will actually be talking to two of the fellows that work over at Maxon. So if you are a Red Giant user, if you have a Maxon account, or if you are interested in getting more into the product and software side of how Maxon operates, this is a really cool episode. And the reason it came about was because of a tweet. So I use a product called PluralEyes. I've used it for years. It is the best video audio syncing software that I think exists. And yes, there are other things out there. There's Syncalia. There is the built-in Adobe Premiere syncing, whatever plugin, but it doesn't work with hundreds and thousands of files, which I'm often using, because I shoot music videos for bands, for example, and oftentimes we have 50 takes, 100 takes. I just shot a behind the scenes for an orchestral recording for a video game, so there are literally like 1,000 files between the video assets of the behind the scenes and the actual audio files from the recording session, and I have to sync all of that up. And the best and fastest and most complete way of syncing things for me has been through an app called PluralEyes, or a software called PluralEyes. And you used to be able to just buy it as a standalone product, but Maxon bought it, and you now have to have the whole Maxon suite to be able to utilize PluralEyes along with the other products like Cinema 4D, Trapcode, all the things. And I went to re-download PluralEyes because I hadn't used it in a while, and I joined a team that shoots SpaceX rocket launches, and we had a bunch of video footage and 2 wireless lav mics that we recorded audio all day, and then obviously the video clips are like throughout the day, so I needed to sync thousands of files. And so I was like, I need PluralEyes. The team has a Maxon subscription, so I was like, let me get PluralEyes and start syncing all these files up. And so I went onto the website and noticed that they are no longer troubleshooting PluralEyes. They're basically sunsetting the program. And so I tweeted about it. I was like, I'm really upset that you guys, I'm sad that you guys are sunsetting PluralEyes. It's the best syncing software that exists. And I got an email from somebody at Maxon. His name is Haight. And he reached out to me and he said, hey, one of my colleagues told me that you tweeted about PluralEyes. He's on the development side. And he was like, I was heartbroken to have that conversation about sunsetting PluralEyes. I'd love to jump on the phone and talk to you about it. And I was like, I'll do you one better. Would you be willing to come on my podcast and talk about not only PluralEyes, but Maxon as a whole, the products, the development side, all that stuff? So I know this is a long-winded introduction, but I just wanted to give you guys some context of what is going on in this episode of Project Freelance. So on this episode, we have Nate and Michael from the Maxon team, and I am so excited to introduce them to you. This is Project Freelance. Let's get into the show. Enjoy. Nate, will you please introduce yourself and what you do at Maxon to the audience here?
I'm Nate Haight, and I'm a product manager on the Red Giant team at Maxon. So product manager, it's a little bit difficult to describe what all product manager encompasses. Talking on podcasts is clearly one of them. But generally, I guide our team of developers on certain products. I generally cover the Trapcode and VFX tools on Red Giant. But yeah, I get out and talk to users and get feedback and, learn pain points and opportunities, and then bring that back to the team and say, hey folks, here's what we're going to work on. Here are our priorities, and then, work through the process, and then, during development, engage our beta testers and get further feedback to help refine the features from there. Outside of Maxon, I've been a creative person for years. I did not set out to get into software development, certainly not product management. I went to school for visual effects and motion graphics, and after trying to break in freelance or get into a studio, a job came out with Red Giant. And a foot in the door as a customer support. And I had no idea previous to seeing this job announcement that they were based out of Portland, where I lived. So it was great. I got my foot in the door and have just kind of worked my way up. I showed that I had chops in troubleshooting trap code, and wound up getting into QA and being the lead QA guy for Trapcode for a while, and then eventually up into product management. But on the, I still have these creative impulses. So I like to get out and work on creative projects when I can. My creative outlet is shooting music videos for local Pacific Northwest artists. And I usually like to use the tools that are currently in development to work on these projects, which has been really fantastic for finding the breaking points in them. So it kind of keeps me in touch with how our tools can be used in real life projects. And I get to make fun things and try to provide elevated video services for poor starving artists.
Amazing. Michael, please introduce yourself and give us a little bit of your background and how you got into the Maxon family and what you do over there.
Sure. I started life out as a very young child, born in 1980. No, it doesn't matter. No, I've been working with After Effects and digital video for over 20 years now, I think. I think I first started doing After Effects in somewhere around 2001, 2002 or 3, somewhere in there. I learned it on VHS tapes, so before the internet, before YouTube was around. So I've been doing that for a long time. I graduated college and was doing full-time job doing shooting video, editing video, doing color grading and visual effects, and then started doing 3D animation and all that kind of stuff with it as well at this full-time job. And I was there. I'd been there for I think 11 or 12 years, and during that time I had started being part of the pre-release program with Adobe. And then some of the Red Giant folks saw how much I used the Red Giant tools, especially Trapcode tools, and were like, hey, we're working on some new things. You want to try them out? So I started beta testing stuff for Red Giant. And then I was just kind of like a voice in the community. Some of you folks might recognize me as a face that pops up often on the Adobe forums or creativecow.net or Reddit in the After Effects and Cinema 4D subreddits. Like this is a face that's around the community a lot. And when the position at Maxon came open for a community person for Red Giant, 2 different people at Maxon both said, we know the guy. So it was me.
Wow.
So they both contacted me and was like, hey, we've got this job and you wanna? And I was like, yes, please. Because my last job, I was full time in an office, and I've got young kids. Number one, so being able to be, working a little more flexibly lets me be home with the kids more often. Number one, but number two, my previous job also involved. I was working for the U.S. government. I was flying around in helicopters in the middle of the night sometimes, and this job is a lot safer because I'm not being dropped off on a ship in the middle of the night anymore. So,
wow, dang,
yeah.
that's a wild background to go from After Effects work to helicopters and dude.
Well,
it was
worth it. It was with a helicopter unit, so I was shooting and editing videos about them, but also animating helicopters doing things and weapon systems doing things and all this other stuff. So I was using Cinema 4D for I think 10 years and Red Giant tools for a long time. Some of them even before they were Red Giant tools. I was using Trapcode back when it was just Peter Norby coding it in his garage or wherever. So I just used the tools for so long and was just a vibrant's the wrong word, active member of the community.
Sure.
So yeah. And
I would say vibrant, absolutely.
And I also do a lot of freelancey stuff as well, doing concert graphics, stadium graphics, and things of that nature, and visual effects. I've done a few visual effects for some music videos and Disney Christmas special and things like that. So it's
Wow.
a lot of experience using the tools and talking to people about the tools, and that's what I'm now. Maxon pays me to talk about the tools, which is great because I love them, I use them, and now I get to chat about how much I love them and use them.
It's amazing. You know, I remember when I first heard about Trapcode, I mean, way back when I was studying film, which makes me feel older than I am, you know, like talking about like, you know, you've worked with this product for 20 plus years, whatever. It just like the mortality in me sets in a little bit when I think about like, you know, I was studying film and I grew up overseas. So I was studying film in Dubai, like back when you could buy the Adobe software on a disc, you know, and like that's not a thing
for $3,000.
Right. And it was a part of our like tuition to film
4,
school was to like, I don't even remember, man, but it was like baked into our tuition. So we like got the Adobe software and all that stuff. So I learned on discs back in the day, and you know, it's kind of crazy to see where we've come and like the nuances with like the integration of AI and things like that within the editing suite, from, you know, Premiere, and even companies like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Artlist, I'm sure you are, but they just announced that they have like a AI voiceover tool that you can use now, and it's insane. I was just like playing around with it. You throw a script in there, there's like hundreds of different vocal styles you can choose from, and it's just wild to see like the nuances of technology. And the fact that you guys get to, you know, Nate, you were talking about using some of the software that's in production that's like that you guys are working on and trying to find the breaking points of those new products. Like, what is that like for you guys to get to like beta test stuff and find and fix those breaking points before they hit the public market?
That's, I would say, probably my favorite part of the job, because I never really got fully out of QA. I love testing things, and particularly I like getting to the bottom of really mysterious issues. You know, there are easy ones where like you apply the effect and After Effects crashes, and you're like, okay, I know, I did this and this happened. Yep. But there are really interesting things. Like particular is you know, a pretty involved tool, pretty complex tool, and it can be like if you're using a light emitter with motion blur and depth of field, and then you stand on your head, then you know, it's like those really weird ones where you really have to dissect. Like a user will send in a project and they're like, everything's turning green and it shouldn't be. Right. And you have to figure out why is this turning green all of a sudden. I love solving those mysteries. But then of course you know, using the products that are in development on my own projects. Also, I set myself up for frustration because naturally things are still kind of in a broken state. And I have had to like completely recreate projects partway through because it just gets to such a broken place. But, you know, hey everybody, I'm taking the hit for you on that one.
Thank you. On behalf of us, the general public, thank you. Yeah. Us freelancers that don't want to go through the headaches that you're likely facing. As far as the projects that you use of your own, that you use these products that are in development, do you ever get like, you know, I don't know if you post those specific projects like on YouTube or Instagram or wherever, but like if you do, are you getting comments from people that are like, how'd you make this? Like, what is this like product that you're using? Or is it more so stuff that's like kind of already kind of integrated?
Yeah, I don't really, because I generally let the artists post the videos. Cool. I don't curate my own channel. I just say, hey, go look at these guys. Got it. So I would say generally the audience that's watching the videos are the fans of the musicians themselves, and I don't know that they care so much
or notice.
Yeah, how much that I spent 6 months cleaning out green screen and creating an entire CG environment for this band.
Yeah, for the 5-second shot that they're gonna see and not care about.
Right.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, it's got to be like both fulfilling and wildly frustrating, that aspect of it. Like the amount of time that we put into these projects for it to be seen for a couple seconds. You know,
Yeah.
it's definitely an interesting part of being like an editor. And Michael, for you, like, do you have a specific product that Maxon created that is like a favorite of yours or like the most frequently used?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think the most frequently used Maxon product I've used is probably Magic Bullet Looks.
Okay.
I've done. I put that on almost everything, whether it's just footage, which is what famously is great at adding stylization footage, but also my 3D renders. I talked about this in an online presentation somewhere for Maxon on one of the road shows, but taking a cold, heartless, calculated, computer-generated 3D render and adding warm film emulation to it really helps elevate my 3D work when I'm doing it. So that's probably my most used thing. Most beloved Maxon tools, probably Particular, because I was into particles before Particular even existed. There was this old tool called Particle Illusion from a company called WonderTouch, which they're not around anymore. And you have to like write down the values in After Effects of pixel-wise where the emitter was, then jump out to this other tool, type, try to type it in, do your particle work in this other tool, then render it out, import this video file back into After Effects to have particles, because the After Effects native particle toolset couldn't quite do everything I needed it to do. While I will say, a lot of people aren't aware, After Effects does have some pretty interesting particle tools in it, but it couldn't do what I wanted to do. It was fine enough, but not for someone like me who's like a big particle person. Like, it just wasn't there. So that's what I had to do. Then Trapcoder announced, famously they made Shine, which was like in every movie trailer in the early 2000s.
Yep.
And then they announced, hey, we've got this new particle system that is inside of After Effects and respects After Effects 3D space. And I was like, whoa. Because number one, it's in After Effects. I don't have to keep jumping back and forth. But number two, it's a 3D particle system. Holy crap! Because what Particle Illusion wasn't. And so I was just like, I jumped in version 1 to Particular. I was there.
Wow.
And that was before Red Giant even had it. It was a long time ago. So that's probably my most beloved. But Cinema 4D is probably the most fun one to play with because it's just the most. Because I started out as a 2D motion designer, and then I just had to learn 3D for the job. And so I was like, which one works with After Effects the best? Which one's the easiest to learn? Which one's the most fun? And Cinema 4D, by far, all three of those blows everything else out of the water. So that's why I picked. And that's why I've been using it for over a decade now, just because it's the most fun. Especially now with the new dynamics. Oh my gosh, if you've never played with the new dynamics in Cinema 4D, they are so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, so before I ask Nate like what your favorites are, I just want to like jump in real quick. So we kind of got into correspondence because of the internet, which is, I love social media for this very reason, especially platforms like X, formerly known as Twitter, whatever you want to call it. Because I tweeted.
I want to call it Twitter.
I do too. It's Twitter. It's Twitter. I'm sorry, Elon. Like, I know you're trying to push this X.com thing you have since PayPal. Like, it was your first company. Like, bro, come on. It's Twitter forever. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I tweeted out that I was like kind of upset with Maxon for getting rid of PluralEyes because as somebody that creates music videos for artists, I mean, I'm dealing with hundreds of files. I mean, literally for the past 4 days, I have been trying to sync 1,100 files in PluralEyes, and now that there's no like troubleshooting option on the Maxon end, it's like there's still like a little bit of like, well, what do I do? Like, it spits out like the error code, and the error code is 10 pages long, and I'm like, I don't know what the issue was, so I have to like start over. And like you guys were talking about earlier, you're troubleshooting kind of as you go, trying to figure out like what was the file that like messed this whole thing up, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can speak from experience, having started out in support. PluralEyes has always been one of the more mysterious products to troubleshoot. Yeah, because
it's magical.
It really is. We still have a couple of the developers that came along with PluralEyes when Red Giant acquired it. So we're very lucky to have that historical knowledge. But there's stuff like those, like you said, the logs that it generates, or the errors. There's like only a couple people on the planet that can still read them. That was always one of the ones that wound up taking the most time to troubleshoot, and often it boils down to, well, Red released a new codec. Oh, okay, we need to go support that. So it's ultimately like, and I told you this in our emails, like I was heartbroken to have to participate in that, the decision to send PluralEyes adrift on an iceberg. I use it myself. I alluded to this story where I was filming a buddy of mine who's a rapper, and we were like, I had him out in the middle of this field, and this little portable Bluetooth speaker sitting at his feet was doing the playback for him to rap to. And then I was running around the field. I wanted to get like some quick moving shots, like running around with my stabilizer. I think I was trying to get like the vertigo effect, where you shoot in 4K and you like run at them.
Yeah.
So I was just running back and forth, and no mic on the camera. It's just onboard mic.
Because why would you need a mic for a music video? Right?
Sure, right?
Yeah.
So I went to sync it, and I go and I check my footage, and this is going to be really offensive to anyone with misophonia, but all you can really hear is me going, and there's just very faintly the sound of the music in the background, super faintly. PluralEyes synced it with no trouble, no hiccups, didn't skip a single clip. It was blown away. So I'm really grateful that it's still functioning as well as it is without active support. Ultimately,
and to be clear, it is still there. If you have a Maxon
it's still available.
You can still download it, still use it.
We can't really do much to
you can't read my error code is what you're telling me.
right. And it came down to it's more costly to maintain it than it is worthwhile. Like it kind of like I had a car like this once where I loved the car, but everything
it's falling apart.
Went wrong on it all at once. It was like the clutch and the AC and the brakes, and I was like, all right, I can't put more into this car than it's worth. So it was time to say goodbye. So that's the sad state of where we are. But and I agree, like it's still probably the best solution for what it does out there. But I think, with AI becoming more and more prominent, somebody's going to come up with something better.
Yeah.
I think it's inevitable.
Yeah. I mean, for the sake of the future of syncing, I hope so. Like I do, PluralEyes, like I'm ride or die, PluralEyes forever.
Yeah.
It is the greatest syncing software that I have ever found. And I mean, you used to be able to just get that by itself, which was great because I don't animate, so it was all I needed. So like the rest of the like Maxon Studio, I didn't really have like much of a need for the whole thing. So it was hard for me to obviously justify the monthly subscription cost for the whole suite because I just need this one product. Sure. And so one of the things that I spoke with you about in our email correspondence was that I'm now a part of a team that is heavily reliant on the whole suite. So I shoot video for Interstellar Gateway. We go out to SpaceX and we film the rocket launches, but we're overall trying to create like an educational platform to get people excited about space because not a lot of people care what's going on, and we personally think that it's extremely important what Elon, SpaceX, NASA, what they're all doing right now, because in our opinion, we have to eventually get out of here. We can't stay here forever. We just can't. We're destroying the place that we live, and if the Earth doesn't destroy us first, we will destroy the Earth, unfortunately, because that's the way humanity is. We will just be our own demise, essentially. So we're trying to get people excited about going to, first stop is obviously the moon, because that will be like a launch pad to get us anywhere else. We just have to stop somewhere along the way. So that's kind of the idea of what we're doing at Interstellar Gateway. And so with that comes a lot of like 3D modeling and 3D rendering and like creating these animations of the thrusters and the rockets and like to explain to people like what they're doing at SpaceX. And I'm sure that the crew at SpaceX, they're also utilizing your products to create their animations and their demonstrations and things like that. Like, for example, they just made like an animated demonstration of the they're called the Mechazilla. They're the arms that the rocket rests on. Basically, they're trying to catch the booster back at the launch pad with these big ass chopsticks. And so they had to create an animation to explain to people like, this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure they're using your products to like create those animations.
Well, I wouldn't doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a no brainer. It just makes the most sense to use a product like that.
Right.
So we heavily rely on the Maxon suite and everything that you guys offer on the like animation side. And so it's been really cool to like get to know the entire suite of products that you guys have outside of PluralEyes, you know, because I want to get into animation, and now that I'm on a team that uses the suite, like it's a good way to like get my feet, dip my toes in the infinite pool of animation possibilities. And I know you guys know that there's literally infinite things that you can do as far as like the VFX and animation stuff goes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it can be a little overwhelming,
Sure.
Which is why we love having people like Michael, who makes it extremely palatable and digestible.
Yeah, I mean, if for anyone out there who's even just a video editor who's not into 3D animation or motion graphics, there's a lot of useful stuff in the Red Giant toolset for you, especially in the Magic Bullet with the color grading and the Universe, especially for adding some nice swoopy transitions or some quick little effects on your stuff. And if you're interested in learning more about it, if you follow Red Giant on Twitter or Instagram, Maxon Red Giant is the account. Every Tuesday, almost every Tuesday, I post 2 really short little bite-sized tips. And of course, Maxon's Red Giant YouTube, the Red Giant YouTube channel has some longer form tutorials. And of course, Cineversity has got a bunch of getting started resources there for you. But one of the things I really like about, especially the Red Giant tool, well, Cinema 4D as well, is just the ease of use to it. Like, there's most of the Red Giant tools that especially I can do in After Effects or, myself. It just takes a really long time. It renders slow and it's hard to develop, whereas I can just do a couple of clicks and Magic Bullet looks, and I've got the most beautiful halation, gorgeous diffusion, and this beautiful filmic grain. And I just did a couple little clicks, and it's just there. And that's what I like about it. Is like I don't have to spend an hour doing something. I just get it done and out the door, so I can move on to the next thing. Or I can focus more on the technical stuff, and I don't have to worry about the color grading because it's just I can do it in 2 seconds.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, it's the versatility as well. Like of the products is incredible. But yeah, like the user friendliness is the most attractive part to me when it comes to like any type of editing software. Like for example, like I'm currently trying to switch over to using DaVinci, but it's definitely a learning curve because I've only used Adobe products for the entire time that I've been an editor. So for you guys, like what is the learning curve for like newer products like for you?
For us learning new products?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I suppose it depends on the tool. Because I would say like Cinema 4D just developed the new particle system, part of the unified dynamics. So me playing with that, it's somewhat familiar to my experience playing with particular. But I guess I can relate to you learning Resolve because I had to like dip my toes in there. We do have a number of products that we support on Resolve. When in my own work, I'm pretty much Adobe. So jumping over to Resolve is again like it's a little more foreign to me. But I know that's gaining popularity pretty quickly. So I know I need to dedicate some time to playing with it.
Sure.
I've got another video project coming up, and maybe I will commit myself to cutting in Resolve, force myself to get familiar. And I think that's probably the best way to do it is, you have, I don't necessarily have a deadline. These guys aren't paying me very much. I kind of dictate the timeline, but you know, some sort of stakes.
Yeah, definitely. So as far as like getting the word out about new things that are going on with Maxon, like what does the company do? Like, are you guys doing like convention showcases, and are you know, Michael, you said you're in a lot of like the Reddit forums and different types of forums talking about the products and things that are going on in that world, but what is like the main way that Maxon is getting the word out about these products?
I mean, most of that forum stuff is just me personally being my personal persons and not doing all the Maxon stuff. But
Sure.
I mean, obviously social media posts, of course. We of course, Maxon has you know, shows at IBC in Europe and NAB and Adobe Max and SIGGRAPH and all these shows where we bring in artists who demonstrate the tools. One of the really key things about Maxon, especially Maxon US, was when it was just Cinema 4D, their main focus was, let's not worry about the paintbrush. The painting is a lot more interesting than the paintbrush. So they would raise up artists who happened to use our tools, but artists who made really cool artwork, and we're like, look, they're going to present their art and how they did it. And so it shows off how fun Cinema 4D is to use, but also it raises up the artists and the artist community, and that's part of how Cinema 4D became the main motion graphics toolkit for 3D motion graphics, is because artists like me saw how Maxon was lifting up artists instead of just bragging about themselves, and like, ooh, so it brought this whole community together. So a lot of what Maxon does is just say, here's artists using tools, here's how, and here let's let them talk to you about their workflow and their process, and that's how it gets out. But sometimes it has folks like me on there going, hey, cool, look at this new feature, let me show you, it's fun. Because, you know, we've been living it with it for longer sometimes.
Yeah,
but
I think
like showing up at live events, doing live streams and pre-recorded videos, putting them out there. Like we try to get it. But the really difficulty is a lot of day-to-day editors don't have time to look up from their editing job to see what's going on. Like a lot of times people say, I mean, I wish there was a tool to do this. I'm like, there is. It's been a magic bullet for so long.
Right.
Like, it's been there for 5 to 10 years sometimes. Like. You've been, like, for example, Universe has a tool called Line. Universe Line. It's you make a start point and an end point, and you scrub a little scrubber, and it animates an arrow going from point A to point B. The easiest way to make an arrow in After Effects by a long shot, and you can't do it in Premiere Pro or any other editor. But
Premiere
it's right
Pro, come on.
Universe is in Premiere Pro. It's in DaVinci Resolve, and but there was these motion graphics designers who struggle every time to make it to just animate an arrow. I'm like, you don't even need After Effects. You can do this in Premiere Pro with Universe, and they're like. I had one designer almost in tears at NAB when I showed him Line, because like if I'd have known I had this, it would have saved me days. I'm like, it's written right here the whole time. Like that's the trouble for me, is trying, how do I reach out to these people who don't have time to go to a convention or who don't have time to even hop up on social media? Like how do I let them know about this tool that can help them save time?
Right. Well,
I don't know.
hey,
I'm trying to figure that out.
well, you just did it right here. You told us how to animate an arrow, which I think is
it's so easy.
It's more important than you think. You know?
No, it's really easy. That's one of the cool things about a lot of, like, Universe is a very odd collection of tools, because you've got like the transitions, which just give you some like more swoopy transitions than what you might natively have in Premiere Pro or Avid Media Composer, heaven help you. But there's also tools like give you easy things like a line with Universe Line, or if you want to get a little crazier, HUD components to give you all these cool little like FUI like greebling, whatever you call it. Like it's just this really odd collection of tools that just helps you get your job done faster. I mean, like, it's not stuff you couldn't do otherwise. It's just it's way faster.
It's also stuff that like you would have to, not if you didn't know about that specific thing that it's capable of doing. For example, like the HUD display stuff. Like, I shot a music video for my own band. I'm not in the music video. It's just like a storyline music video, and it's about this astronaut that crash lands on Earth. And I was like, I need a HUD like display for the POV of it inside his helmet. I don't know how to make that, so I had to go find like a stock HUD, on whatever Pexels or Adobe stock or whatever, whatever, just some pre-made thing, and like kind of like try to like mask stuff out and then add my own text in. And had I known that there was like a HUD option when I shot that video, I would have gone that route, so it's like how that it's so hard to it's so hard to like know without knowing, basically.
I always tell folks,
yeah.
if you've got a Red Giant subscription or Universe subscription, there's a very cool tutorial series on Cineversity. If you go to maxon.net, go to the Learn tab at the top, hit Cineversity. There's a Getting Started in Universe series. And it runs through and goes over every single tool that's in there real quick. And so, you know, the videos are broken out by the sections of Universe tools. And it just... It's a quick run through of what all the tools are. So you're not going to need all the tools. I promise you're not going to need all the tools in your life. But some of those tools, like in your case, the HUD, or in this other designer's case, Universe Line, it could have saved them days of time. So just knowing it's there is useful. So I always tell folks, hey, watch that series. Some of it's going to be almost skippable, but some of it's going to be life-changing. So just watch it. You're paying for the tools. Know what you got.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like you have this toolbox full of tools and you don't know what the wrench is for. You're like that there's even a wrench there, you know? So it's very helpful to like
someone's trying to knock a screw in with a hammer and like, there's a screwdriver. There's a screwdriver right there.
It's a drill. It's electric. It's electric. You can do it.
Exactly.
There's an easier way. Yeah. So it's really cool. Like, that you guys make that educational content as well, like to help people along their path and their journey to make better products, content, whatever you want to call it. And it's been really, really cool getting to know like I said, the suite more, that I'm going to be like using it more and integrating it more into like the stuff that I make myself. And so for you guys, like on your journeys, like what is next for you? Not necessarily Maxon. I know we can't talk about things that they're coming out with next, but like for you guys on your journeys, like are you working on any personal projects that you're really excited about or anything like that?
Like I said, I've got a video project coming up. We're supposed to be shooting in a few weeks. And it's somebody I've worked with many times in the past. I'm really looking forward to doing this. He was in a band called Riverpool, but this is a solo project for him.
Cool name.
So, yeah, they were a really cool band. They had a lot of fun. They were the ones that I spent 6 months keying out green screen for. Yeah, worth it. Good guys. But yeah, no, this is going to be fun. A lot more stripped down, kind of, the solo artist kind of out in a beautiful outdoor setting with a little bit of a narrative to go with it. So, I'm looking forward to that. I've also been getting back into music a little bit.
Cool.
Lately. I used to, I was in a band back in high school where I played drums, and I hadn't touched a drum set in like over 25 years, but I just got an electronic set, and I've been jamming away on that.
Hell yeah. Was it like riding a bike? Did you like pick it back up pretty quickly, or was it like starting from scratch?
Oh no, really surprisingly. I mean, of course, like the first time I sat down at it, it was
You're fumbling.
like a toddler.
Yeah.
But I seriously, like after playing for 30 minutes and then another 30 minutes and then another 30 minutes, like more and more of it has come back each time. Pretty surprised. So yeah, I'm digging it.
That's awesome. Michael, what about you? What are you working on?
I'm in between digital projects at the moment. I've got a big list of things I want to work on. There's a new Red Giant tool called Geo that just came out relatively recently, and I've got some ideas on really interesting ways to showcase it. For those who don't know, Geo is a way to get 3D models into After Effects with a bit more power than the native tool set has, and a little bit more like you can make it your own more, and there's some really neato things you can do with it. So that's kind of my next thing, is I want to show off some really interesting things you can do with Geo and fun. That's probably the next thing on my like project list, unless someone's got a stage concert graphics pack they need put together, because I love doing music visualizers and concert graphics. So hit me up my personal channels.
Absolutely. I know I definitely will be. So I've been in several bands over the years, but my like baby, my passion project, Chasing Satellites, we just booked our first show August 2nd. It's at like a small venue here in Nashville, but I eventually would obviously like to tour with it and, do the whole thing. And with that comes like visual graphics, concert graphics, and, visualizers and things like that. And so I'll definitely keep that in mind.
I'm so sad we didn't get to like chat beforehand, because I used to live just an hour north of Nashville. The government job I have is at Fort Campbell, And like,
Oh,
we
no way. Okay.
literally just moved. But hey, just
Wow.
so you're aware, if you're wanting to do more motion graphic stuff, there's a cool meetup every month, the third Thursday of the month, called Music City MoGraph Meetup. And it's just a
What?
bunch of motion designers that hang out at a brewery and chat motion design in
That's
Nashville.
so sick. That's so sick. So I lived in California for like 8 years. I grew up overseas, but like I lived in like LA, Orange County, San Diego. I was in SoCal for like 8 years because that's where I thought I had to be to like make it. You know, they sold me the dream of Hollywood, and turns out you don't have to be there, and there's airplanes and you can kind of get anywhere. But with that, we had these like weekly photography meetups like in LA. You know, it would be like souped up cars, motorcycles, cosplayers, models, fire breathers, like all kinds of crazy stuff. And that was like on a weekly basis. And when I moved to Nashville, I was like, damn, I have to say goodbye to that community that was out there.
Well, I don't think there's that many fire breathers at the Music City
Sure.
MoGraph meetup, so I would
Sure.
temper your expectations somewhat.
No, for sure. But I mean, like
yeah.
to have like a community that is here, like I didn't even know that
yeah.
existed. So that's
It's
super sick.
small but growing.
I love
And
it.
I used to be a regular attendee, but now that I'm
Cool.
no longer in the Nashville area,
Sure.
I'm sadly going to miss them. Speaking of Elon Musk and space stuff in general, I'm doing a lot more traveling now. I'm currently in a camper RV thing, and we're using Starlink for our internet, which has helped a lot.
Let's go. So I tour a lot with bands, you know, and with my own band, and I've been trying to figure out like a hotspot solution. So I know this has nothing to do with Maxon, but Starlink based, like, is it reliable, like comparable to having like a cell phone hotspot? Better?
Yeah. Better. Generally
Amazing.
speaking, because you don't need to be within range of a cell phone tower. You just need to be in range of
satellites.
the sky.
The sky. Amazing.
As long as
yeah,
you're not camping under a tree, you're good.
Sure. Amazing.
No
Okay.
underground layers.
No. Well, that's the other thing I do is explore abandoned places. So sometimes I do find myself in an underground military bunker from the Cold War era. You know, just there's no service down there. Starlink probably won't work either.
No Starlink there.
No Starlink there, but very cool, very cool. Well, thank you both so much for taking the time out of your days to come on to the podcast.
Thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
Yes, it's been a learning experience. It's been really cool to get to know you guys a little bit better, and I'm looking forward to kind of continuing our correspondence and kind of getting to know this Maxon suite more and more.
And hey, feel free to hit me up. Especially Magic Bullet and stuff. I love showing people how to zhuzh their things with Magic Bullet looks. So
Cool.
hit me up. And folks who are listening / watching this, if you've got questions on how to do stuff, feel free to comment on the YouTube videos or on Maxon's Twitter and Instagram handles and say if you've got a question on how to do something. That's one of the main ways that tutorials get sparked. Is someone asks, "How do I do it?" And I'm like, "Hey, I can show you."
Yeah,
Amazing.
Clearly we're very responsive here.
Yes, and
Like a week ago, Kay added us, and now we're on their podcast.
Here we are. So if people do want to kind of follow your personal journeys, do you want to drop your social media?
Oh yeah, I'm the Great Zalam, so the Great and then SZALAM. I'm not very active on Instagram or Twitter very much, but if someone messages me, I message back.
Perfect.
And it's me ITSME _N8H8 because I was a teenager in the 90s.
Listen, I'm sure that was your MySpace name too.
Yeah, right.
Let's go. Your Tumblr URL. I know you had it.
Right,
we all had it. Come on now. Awesome. Well, thank you both. I really appreciate you guys. So that was my episode with Nate and Michael from Maxon. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. It was really cool for me to kind of dive deeper into the product side, the development side, and kind of the decision-making process at Maxon, and also to get to know these two guys and their backgrounds. They're so friendly. They're so kind to have reached out to me in the first place about a tweet. Like, I both love and hate the internet and social media, and one of my main reasons for loving it is because of situations like this. You can just kind of reach out to anybody, especially on X, Twitter, whatever. It's Twitter. Especially on Twitter because you can just tweet companies and they will see your tweet. It's amazing. And so a huge shout out to the Maxon team. Thank you guys for the support. Thank you for being willing to come on the podcast. And if you are a freelancer out there and you do visual effects, if you're an animator, if you're a photographer, if you're a musician, if you do anything creative and you want to come on Project Freelance to share your story, your insights, your tips and tricks with my audience, I've put my email and social media down below. Please reach out to me. I would love to have you on an episode of the show. And all my social media is down there, my website, if you want to see any of my videography work. And please subscribe if you enjoyed this. I love making this podcast. It's very educational for myself, and I know you guys get a lot out of it as well. So thank you for tuning in this week for another episode of Project Freelance. I will talk to you guys soon. Stay strong, keep enduring. Have fun out there. Peace.